Hello and welcome. My name is Alyssa Gardner, and I'm Director of the Grad Academy here at the Graduate College, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our 11th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT, competition model was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year is our 11th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, why they study it, how they study it, what they found or what they expect to find, and why it matters to an audience of people who are mostly outside of their field. It's an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills and to polish one's elevator speech describing what they study as graduate students. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus from a wide range of disciplines. Some are first-year students, some are in their final year, some slammers are master's students, while others are advanced doctoral candidates. It's a diverse pool of over 90 graduate students competing here this week. So, we have a group of UNLV graduate students who have been assigned to compete in this preliminary session. Each student will present their research in 3 minutes or less using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. Slammers, please make sure to keep your microphone on mute and your video off when other competitors are presenting. Only turn on your microphone and video when you are presenting. Please be sure to stay for the entire session, even after you are done presenting. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat in between presenters. Please don't use the chat during anyone else's presentation, as it may be distracting. You may sit or stand while presenting. You only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and 1 chance to compete. After I introduce you, our Zoom host will advance to your presentation slide. You may then begin your presentation. Once you begin speaking, we will start the timer and you will not be able to restart your presentation unless something beyond your control occurs. You will be able to see the Zoom timer at the top of your screen once you start talking. Please don't stop unless I stop you. Don't worry though, if you lose Wi-Fi or if you're disconnected, please join back in. We will wait a minute for you and then we'll go to the next presenter. But if that happens, you can redo your presentation at the end. And please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on your screen in front of you. Okay, so for a moment, let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges here today will be assessing the competitors based on metrics which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas. Those include comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live in this session. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live in Zoom and will be simultaneously aired on the Graduate College's YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, over 90 students are competing in the preliminary rounds. Around 36 will move on to the semifinals competition, and only about 9 will advance to the finals at 4 p.m. this Friday, November 8th at Greenspun Hall. So without further ado, let me introduce today's judges, and then we will get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. We have a set of very distinguished judges today. So judges, as I call your name and introduce you, please feel welcome to turn on your camera briefly and wave hello. So today's judges include Jenny Kent from Integrated Health Sciences. Hi, Jenny, thank you. David Schaus from Fine Arts. Kimberly Sharon from Business. Christopher Willoughby from the College of Liberal Arts. Jeffrey Orguera from SVPAA Student Academic Success. Thank you all so much for being here today and serving on our panel of judges. All right, so we are officially ready to begin the competition. Our first presenter today is Danya Shahamati. Danya's presentation will be on metabolic response variability following high-fat and high-carbohydrate meals. And Danya is a student in the Master of Science program, Nutrition Sciences. So Danya, as soon as you see your slide, you can start presenting whenever you are ready. Oh, oops, one moment. We're waiting on the slides, just a moment. Our first presenter today is actually Katrina Pinili, so we're just swapping the slides real quick. Okay, so first we have Katrina Pinili, exercising starvation-selected Drosophila. I'll let you attempt that one. Insight into exercise and obesity. Katrina is a Doctor of Philosophy student studying biological sciences. So we can go ahead and advance to Katrina's slide. Sorry, everyone, looks like some technical difficulties. Okay, Katrina, please go ahead and turn on your camera and begin when you are ready, and we'll start the timer.
Obesity is a serious issue that can lead to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and other obesity-related conditions. In the US, more than 1 in 5 adults had obesity in 2022, and it's currently increasing in prevalence throughout the states. The map shows just how common this disease is, where most of the states have over 30% prevalence. Obesity is also very costly. In 2008, the medical bills of those who were obese were about $1,500 higher than those that were at a healthy weight. And this is no surprise because obesity can lead to the development of other conditions and, in the worst case, can lead to death. That said, obesity is very concerning. It's widespread in the US, it's expensive and dangerous to one's life. In order to understand this prevalent issue, we can study fruit flies, or Drosophila melanogaster. They are a great model organism because they are easily accessible, they have a fast generation time of 10 days from egg to adult, and they are low maintenance. So this provides a great resource for researchers to study important topics on humans. In our lab, we have two types of flies. We have fed control flies and starvation-selected flies. Fed control flies have unrestricted access to food, while starvation-selected flies are starved until about 80% of the population die off, giving survivors for the next generation. And you can see the stark difference between the two groups of flies. But you're probably expecting the starved flies to be skinny, right? But remarkably, they have an ability to adapt to starvation, leading them to be very big and genetically obese. Unfortunately, they have low mobility, metabolic rate, flight ability, and cardiac function. The panels in C and D show a time lapse of the heart beating. The fed fly hearts are able to contract more, while the starved fly hearts are struggling to contract because they are so dilated. This is just one example of what we can do to understand obesity by studying flies. But what am I doing to understand obesity? In our lab, we exercise flies. And you're probably wondering, you can exercise these tiny little critters? Yes, you can. So in our lab, we use what is called the fly roller, which kind of works like those hot dog machines that you see at 7-Eleven. But instead, we are exercising files of flies that rotate continuously instead of hot dogs to induce exercise. Fly exercise studies have shown that exercise decreases fat stores and improves lifespan. When we exercise our starvation-selected flies, we see similar results, but we still need to learn more about the relationship between exercise and obesity. By exercising starvation-selected flies, we hope to achieve a better understanding of obesity and how to implement specific exercise regimens with those struggling with obesity. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. We will now give the judges a moment to score. Our next presenter is Prince Wiafe, Food for Gold, Mapping the Impact of Gold Mining on Food Security in Ghana. Prince is a Master of Arts student in economics. Go ahead and begin when you are ready, Prince.
Good afternoon. Represent Protocols. Prince, Ghana is one of the leading producers of cocoa in Ghana and also in Africa. Gold has been one of our major exports. Gold is exported into most of the advanced countries that we know, and it is used for other precious activities or other precious minerals, together with other commodities. Also, the country is also known to be one of the leading producers of cocoa in the world, and especially coming from the African continent. Over the years, Ghana's economy has always and struggling been built on two major export commodities, that is gold and cocoa. Gold is is a natural resource that is extracted from let's say the heartburn of the country. However, cocoa is also from the agricultural resource. But over the years, the production of cocoa and production of agricultural commodity has decreased drastically, whilst the production of gold has increased tremendously, simply because there are some great substitution for gold for other commodities. For instance, if you go to our country is exporting gold for oil. And so that has led to the reduction of oil prices because they are substituting gold for oil. And these have led many indigents into their production or going into the illegal extraction of gold. And this illegal extraction of gold has tremendously affected the food security in Ghana. Food security is being defined in terms of the accessibility of food, the affordability of food, and also making food available in terms of even the quality. All the production, because they are being done on an illegal scale, they are using illegal equipment, illegal mining mechanisms, and mercuries and other activity to destroy the land that we have. This goes a long way to affect our environmental stability. And not only that, they are taking out the farmlands of people. They are taking out the crops of people simply because they want to now export or get more gold because the price of gold has gone high. And so this research wants to map out most of the affected areas. So if you look at the map beside, the deep areas talks about where the gold are being extracted. And if you look at it carefully, the prices of food in terms of the basic food has really gone high. And so this research wants to map up in terms of which area has really experienced the devastation of gold in substitution for our basic food commodities. And so that is what we want to do. And we want to use the small area technique in estimating this result. We are saying that there should not be any substitutes for food because that is our life sustainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prince, and we will give the judges another moment to score. All right, everybody. Next, we have Landon Netherton, The Curious Case of VirB, Understanding Shigella Gene Regulation. And Landon is a PhD student in biological sciences.
Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some really interesting findings that I've had in regards to a key virulence protein known as VirB found in Shigella flexneri. Now, Shigella is a human pathogen that causes bacillary dysentery, of which there are over 600,000 deaths worldwide every single year. And what's more troubling is that many of these Shigella pathogens are exhibiting an increasing resistance to antibiotics. Figure 1 here shows a table taken from the World Health Organization Bacterial Pathogens Priority List published just earlier this year. And in it, we can see that these Shigella superbugs are being found more and more frequently across the globe. So we have a major problem, and we need to address it as a society. And one way we can do this is by identifying novel therapeutic targets such as VirB. VirB binds to DNA and spreads, which allows virulence genes to be expressed. Now, I've made some really interesting observations that other nearby genes, such as an antibiotic resistance gene, depending on the orientation of this gene, may be inhibited by the spread of VirB. And we can see this in figure 3. In the presence of VirB, we do not see any sort of bacterial growth on a plate when this antibiotic resistance gene is in the B orientation oriented towards that VirB binding site. And bacterial growth in this case is shown by those dark dots here in the middle of the circle plate. I've also seen, interestingly, that VirB anti-silencing activity is completely diminished whenever this gene is oriented towards that VirB binding site. So overall, my findings show a couple of different things. One, it shows that VirB may have a previously uncharacterized novel role in gene regulation as also a silencing protein. And speaking more broadly, this sort of highlights the importance that genetic context plays in the expression of proteins, whether that be for a bacterial cell or for human cells as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Landon, and we will give the judges another moment to score their rubrics. Okay, next we have Dillon Brouwer, the two pillars. Dillon is a Master of Arts student in Communication Studies. So Dillon, whenever you are ready.
Hello. All right. So throughout my time, I have noticed that educators set a preliminary interaction that sets standards for student successes. What we've seen is that a lot of times right now, students are fighting this social castration, as I call it, where they're really struggling to communicate in classes. There's a lot of people in their late teens to early 20s that are really having trouble doing things like ordering at a restaurant or checking out at a grocery store in the most extreme scenarios. There's a lot of reasons why, but my research and my efforts focuses on understanding the social implications behind that and what verbal and nonverbal rhetorical practices we as educators can use to help those students. So I developed a methodology. I call it the two pillars, which is academic enrichment and outreach and education representation. Simply put, academic enrichment and outreach is teaching a student how to be an advocate of themselves. Education representation is teaching them to be an advocate for their communities. I developed what I call the OCC methodology: outreach, connection, and communication. Outreach is really simple. First, it's making an ability for us to recognize students' strengths and weaknesses. Think of the kids in Comm 101 that can't stand up and introduce themselves without almost having a panic attack. Research suggests that placing these students into a group and collaborative class using group work in games, specifically the games, really encourages them to break out of their shell and start working with students. Another thing that we found fascinating is when you take those introverted students who are facing that social castration and putting them into groups with the most extroverted students, those extroverts who thrive off social energy normally are able to break those students out, but not always. And that's when we get to connection. Connection is learning what makes a student tick, what encourages them, what motivates them, what discourages them. Just like in elementary school, you had the treasure box. Some kids just want their little prize, so they do their work to get to their little prize. What verbal and nonverbal communication strategies and social cues can we use to communicate with our students? Dr. Nick Tatum explains that to enrich a student's life, we as educators use humor, which is extraordinarily useful, especially self-deprecating humor. This creates an interpersonal relationship with our students and makes them trust us, and most importantly, feel safe. Finally, communication. The ways that we interact and what rhetorical strategies we have a grave impact on individuals. We want them to go and be advocates and representatives of their own respective social groups. We want them to talk and force themselves into the classes they want to be in. Working with people like Dr. Craig Hennigan, we've learned that we have effective communication and we can coach people in academic environments with rhetorical practices and strategies. What I want everyone to realize is we all know as educators, we can't pull every student out of the cracks, but with small adjustments, there are small changes we can make to help a student from not slipping in those cracks in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dillon. Okay, we'll give another moment for judges to score. Okay, last, certainly not least, we have Juanita Hinojosa, Immigrant-Scholar, Dónde está, gente? Juanita is a student in the PhD program Higher Education.
I am an immigrant scholar who was raised in rural and resilient communities, both in Mexico and the Pacific Northwest. As someone who is a first-generation immigrant from Mexico and a first-generation college graduate, I will be the first person in my family to obtain a PhD. For my dissertation, I wanted to focus on a research that highlighted my community rural voices. One research question that I'm exploring is how do Latinx students experience and navigate rural higher education, particularly at institutions that are Hispanic serving institutions, meaning they enroll over 25% of their undergraduate student body who identify as Latinx in addition to other requirements. So I first looked at the literature, right? That's where we all have to start. And I took a look at the literature on Latinx students in higher education, which is very urban-centric. That's the narrative that we currently see. Second, I looked at literature on students in rural higher education, which largely focuses on white students in the Appalachian regions and Latinx students in the Southwest. But research on the experiences of rural Latinx students attending Hispanic serving institutions in the Pacific Northwest tri-state area of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho is minimal. So I put out a call on social media for rural Latinx students who are currently enrolled at an HSI to join me for a one-on-one plática. Plática is a Chicana Latina feminist qualitative methodology that unapologetically centers the lived experiences of Latinx and recognizes them as creators of knowledge. So I had a total of 20 students who agreed to join me on this journey as I become the first doctora in my family. 18 of the rural students were first generation. 12 of them shared that they or their family were from farm working backgrounds, and their majors range from forensic doctors, psychologists, nurses, and social workers, very diverse career interests. They also attended different types of Hispanic serving institutions from public, private, 2-year. Only one student attended an emerging Hispanic serving institution, meaning that they are close to reaching that 25% threshold. So after analyzing over 25 hours of pláticas, there are three components that I like to highlight in regards to my findings for this question. First is the importance of scholarships. Yes, removing financial barriers are very important, particularly for first generation and students who come from farm-working backgrounds. Due to the potential earnings of farm workers. But we know that removing financial barriers doesn't automatically create the sense of belonging that is very important as students are advancing in their higher education journey, which brings me to my second component, community. Community of peers amongst those who are from similar backgrounds provided critical, emotional, academic, and social support. And lastly, cultural validation. Representation matters, particularly amongst faculty and staff who are also Latina, and having events that are geared towards celebration and education of the Latina community. So I highlight why this research is important, not only because it's personal, but because it highlights the voices of rural Latina communities. And also because proudly after Friday, I'll be able to say I'm a rural immigrant scholar once I defend my dissertation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juanita, and good luck on your dissertation defense. We will give the judges another moment to score that last presentation. So thank you so much for joining this preliminary round session today, and thank you to the Graduate College team who have made this 3MT event possible. Now just stay tuned. We will announce our winners live in just a few minutes. Judges, please be sure to press submit, the button at the end of your rubric form, once you have completed your scoring, and that way it will come to us for some tallying. While only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt. So you can get your t-shirt during the Rebel Grad Slam finals reception event on Friday. For preliminary rounds, the first place winner will receive a $300 scholarship. The second place winner will receive $200. And the third place winner will receive $100, and all 3 will advance to the finals. So just stay tuned for a bit here. Judges, submit those forms when you are ready, and we will announce the winners in just a few minutes. All right, everyone, the scores are in. Are you ready? The winners of this preliminary session are, I'll go backwards. So third place, we have Landon Netherton. And in second place, we have Dillon Brouwer. And then in first place, we have Juanita Hinojosa. So congratulations, everyone. You have all advanced to the semifinals round, and you will receive some more information about that. Thank you again for your participation. Please join the semifinals round on Thursday, November 7th. Judges are welcome as audience members as well. We will have our semifinals rounds at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium this Thursday. And then we will have our finals round and reception on Friday, November 8th at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. We welcome you all to RSVP to the finals event. And we have just dropped that link into the chat. So please go ahead and RSVP if you would like to attend the finals event. And congratulations again, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us.